exclusive podcast, whatever you want to call it. Weston, Richey here, co-host Chris Hinckley, and we got some awesome guests today. Guys, introduce yourself.
My name is Dino.
I am Nate, a.k.a. Aquaman.
Let's go.
Yeah, Dino and Aquaman. We got Thor.
Yeah,
we got Bruce Wayne. What superhero are you, my guy? Flash?
Ooh, I like that. Let's go with Flash.
Ooh,
I like that.
I like it.
Flash.
Chuck Norris today with that stash. I don't
Oh,
know.
dude,
Chuck Norris.
I ain't taking no shit from nobody today. But anyway,
Just need a cowboy hat.
I got it. Don't let me go get it. Clint Eastwood and John Wayne put together, and John Dutton. But the coolest part about this is, guys, y'all are from all over the world. Specifically, you don't know exactly where you are, but we met in St. Louis.
Mhm.
How does the chaos theory work? How are we sitting in Texas,
Dude,
and how are we connected in this space?
fucking crazy shit. Dude, I don't even know how this all happened. I really don't even fucking know. It started, I think, I met you when you were shooting, and you were at Summer Smash. It was like the first time ever, and that was that. Because Chris wasn't there.
An old friend.
Yep, old friend.
That's where we met.
And then
You know how that actually started, actually. Do you know how? So we knew Nick. We went to the Thursday one, or the Thursday night where it was like
the dinner.
No,
No, it was
the
Brookdale.
Got it.
the farm where we,
Farm.
yeah,
Yep.
right. And I saw Tristan, and I'm like, hey, bro, cool shoes. That's how me and Tristan met.
No
I
way.
was like, hey, bro, I like your shoes. And then we just started chatting, bullshitting, and then boom, we started hanging out with them. Met with them. You know, the rest of the night was a super funny story. And then the next day, we didn't have access to all the cool shit.
Mm-hmm.
We met you through Tristan
Mhm.
because we actually got to have access to the back end of the gym and all that shit.
I do remember that now.
Yeah.
That shit was wild, man. How long were you there the whole time we did that trick shot? Because we
Yeah,
were
I
there for like
filmed it.
5 hours.
Well, no, we came back the next day, and I got it on video.
Oh my god, dude.
That was
That
an
shit was
intense
crazy.
trick shot.
That was intense.
So then we fast forward to year 2. I'm like, Chris, we gotta go. Right? Like, we gotta go to first.
We were there with Tristan, right? We were there for the Indy 500.
Yep.
Oh,
the-
yeah.
yep,
We had that
initially.
other event.
Yep.
Dino 500.
And then this year coming up, we always spotted Aquaman, but we didn't really know each other, right?
And then when
It's
you
like-
have Chris,
We saw the nose ring. We saw the long hair.
Thought it
the
was
muscles.
Chris.
It was like, this is my brother.
Well, Dino pulled me into the gym. I was just walking by, and Dino was like, dude, you got to come in here. I found your twin. I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Here I see Chris,
Like
this
one of one.
good-looking man. I was like, bro, this ain't my twin. No, this is just my significant other, because we have Aquaman and then we have Thor.
Let's go.
And it just brought brought the Marvel and the DC universe together.
Oh, I like
I love
that.
it, bro. You're too kind, man.
I thought you were gonna take
Human
that a
too,
different
bro.
direction, bro. I
saw
was like
that
significant
pump
other.
today.
I was like, damn, bro,
I
we're
don't know
getting
where
there.
we're going
Yeah.
But anyway, it's weird how the world works, right? Now we're in Texas. You know what I mean? So it's cool that we've been able to catch up, stay consistent friendships. You know how I believe in that. Is like, I don't give a fuck where you live, what you do. You can pick up the phone, you can call, you can text, you can wish your friends a good day.
1000%.
You guys have done that. I know y'all have tapped into the first Phorm mentality to the community. Did you guys have that mentality before you were part of First Phorm?
You wanna go first?
Yeah, man. Dude, no, I didn't, honestly. Honestly, like, it's crazy because First Phorm is this whole community of just people who want to help each other, want to, like, change the world. Honestly, so what attracted me to First Phorm, I had been using the products for years.
Really?
Yeah, like, that's what really helped me get into my fitness. But I started listening to Andy, did 75 hard. Listened
How hard are you?
Bro, I'm so hard.
He's
Oh my
90.
God.
He's 95 hard.
Bro.
He's 75 and Goggins
I'm
hard.
sitting next to him, bro. I see a chub, dog.
Bro,
I see a
dude.
chub.
Dang, Dora.
Quit staring, man.
Y'all don't know the
Can't
funny
help it.
inside joke, but if you do get a chance to go to Nate's Instagram, you have to watch his video.
It's
It's
the
literally-
middle pinned post.
It is hilarious.
I'm glad you pinned that, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm glad you
I
pinned
had
that,
to
bro.
pin
I'm
it,
glad you
man.
pinned it.
So, with that being said, you just use the products, boom, you got involved, and you're like, hey, man, I think I might work here. How'd that?
Yeah, man. I was living in Missouri, Springfield, Missouri, going to school, moved back up to Minnesota where I'm originally from during COVID. That got sent home. It was my senior year of college. Long story short, really got more invested into my fitness, and I was in the finance industry. And it just wasn't my passion. I wanted to do something in the fitness world, and what better way to get involved in fitness than where my own fitness journey started. But really, I knew Andy as this baller, right? He talked about, you want to make money, like you want to make an impact in this world. Like I wanted to do all that. Like, so when I came to First Phorm, I guess my intent wasn't like to go out there and help people, really. And which now that I look back is like, I don't even know how I got a job here, man. Cause I'm like, everyone wants to help people. Of course, now that I've been living the lifestyle, I actually understand what kind of impact I can actually make as an individual. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm all bought in. And if I can make a shit ton of money helping people, like that's the best life right there. So,
Well, that's the fulfillment, right?
yeah.
It's not the money at the end
Exactly.
of the day. It's you helping someone else in some sort of way and benefiting their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, man.
The money's just a bonus.
What is the
Right.
currency compared to impacting people's life?
Well, it's priceless.
Right? Exactly. So it's like some people move that way, and it depends on motive and it depends on drive, because you obviously have to have money and you have to have certain things that you need in your life.
Mhm.
But the feeling and dopamine you get from helping somebody in specific ways or random ways is still going to be better than every paycheck you make. Hopefully. at
Unless
least.
it's that one that
I mean,
helps
you never
eat.
know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That one's pretty important.
Yeah.
Very rare you get to meet a guy like Dino. You walk in, guy's smiling everywhere he goes, and he's just attraction that people pull to you, right? I know you're gonna tell me no and all the other things, but when I got to meet you the first time, man, you were just so open arms and helped me with everything. You need something, I got you.
Mhm.
I needed fucking breakfast sausage sticks, and he comes back with like 8 of them. It's like, hey, dude, I know you're
remember that.
hungry, but when we got to meet you, man, it was just pretty cool, and to hear a little bit more your story, where you
Mhm.
came from to where you are, it just makes total sense. So
Appreciate
I'd love
that.
to, if you are open to it,
Yeah.
kind of share, man. Like, I mean, even today we talked about you being in a refugee camp, bro.
Yep.
Like, with that smile, you would just never expect that, man. So how did you overcome those challenges, bro?
Dude, this is a good one, and I feel like there's so many different directions, and there's so many stories we could dive into. But man, it's funny because when I think back to just everything, I didn't ever know that I was struggling, right? Like, even though we didn't have money, even though obviously, like even today, like, dude, there was a time where we wore the same clothes for months on months at a time, but there was just this feeling of like everything's fine, everything's good. Like, I just never noticed the suffering, right? And I chalk it up to my mom, because she was always good about having the positive mindset, right? She was always good about finding the good no matter what. And I mean, dude, and we could kind of go more into like little pieces of the story. But man, honestly, I think a lot of who I am today was because I didn't even know that was a different story, right? Like, when I came to America, to me, I didn't know I had a story. I was like, oh, this is normal, like everyone else. Like, I had nothing special. I was just another kid. But it took me until First Phorm to really notice that, like, holy shit, dude, your life is different. Like, you went through so much different things or whatever, very different than a lot of other people, right? Now, everyone has their own unique story, but yeah, dude, that was a big piece. It's like, I never noticed that we were struggling. And because my mom never let us, like, I think I've said this on my podcast before, but even though we didn't have anything, my mom made sure that we felt like we had everything.
Wow.
Right? So it's like, hey, we might not have the coolest clothes, anything of that nature, but we got it all. We got family, you got the mindset, you got the heart, you got the eyes, you got the nose, you got fucking everything. Like, dude, there's people out there that can't walk tomorrow.
Right.
I'm fucking blessed to be here. And I think, dude, that was just beaten into me. And beaten into me sounds like a bad word, right? But it was just like taught constantly, man. And so I think I just naturally just picked that up, right? But yeah, kind of a little bit of the story, for a lot of you guys that don't know, and there's a lot of people that don't know, but 1992, I don't know if you guys know Yugoslavia,
No.
But it used to be Croatia, Serbia, Slovenia, Bosnia, and Montenegro, and they were all used to be one big country. And once I don't know if he was technically the president at the time, but when he passed away, that's when things kind of got dicey, so to say, right? And then you started to see Serbia split off, Croatia split off, Bosnia split off, Slovenia, and then everyone just kind of became their own thing. Well, what happened was the Serbs, and in particular, it's not like the Serbian people. It's kind of like the KKK group here, right? Like when you think of Christians, if you think of KKK, that's not even remotely close to describing everyone, right? That's a certain section of that. So Serbia had its own version of that, right? And what they went after was Muslims. And a lot of Bosnian people were Muslim at the time, right? And then when you also think about this, we used to be one big country where we all used to go to school together. Like, dude, you're Serbian, you're Croatian, I'm Bosnian, you're Slovenian. Dude, you're my neighbor, you're my neighbor, you're my neighbor. We're all neighbors. Like, we're friends. So everything was intermingled. But then when that happened, man, you know, it became a religious thing where it was like, hey, going after Bosnians who were Muslim. And I mean, dude, I say it was a war, but it was really a genocide, right? Like, I mean, dude, I have cousins that I'll never meet again. You know, like, dude, my mom has plenty of fucking stories that we could go down. And it was tragic, clearly, right? But dude, the crazy part about it is it happened in 1995 was the end of it, right? Like, that's pretty recent. And so when the war broke out, all those things started to happen, my parents moved away, right? And to paint a better picture for you guys about this too, it's like when that all broke down, imagine you're Serbian, right, Chris? Mm-hmm. And your whole duty is to go after Bosnian Muslims. Me and you are friends. And you have to call me the next day and be like, hey, brother, I have to kill you. Like, imagine that. And, dude, that was a real thing. I mean, dude, there's stories of teachers who were Serbian, and let's say I'm Bosnian, you're my teacher, you're Serbian. Bro, you have to come after me. Like, you have to come after me. There's stories of literally teachers going to their students' classes, their students' house, and, dude, doing just the craziest shit you can think of, right? Like mass killings, mass murder, all that stuff.
Never even heard of.
Huh?
So it was a civilian war as well as like a military war?
Mm-hmm.
That's wild,
yeah.
actually.
And that's, but dude, I maybe it's because a lot of those people did serve or they were called to serve at the time, right? Like, I don't know all the full ins and outs of that, but what I believe it was kind of like, you know, when you can enlist and when you're called upon, you're kind of that, right? So I don't know if it was necessarily civilian, but it was more like the military style people, right? Like the ones that signed up for the war or whatever. So those were the people coming after you, right? Like, just to give you guys an example, my uncle, and my uncle and his dad got captured at one point. And they got captured and they were tortured for like 4 or 5 days, like just torture. And I remember my uncle doesn't talk about this story anymore, but there was one story in particular where they sat his dad down, him down, they put a gun in each one's lap, and they're like, whoever kills who first gets to leave. Neither one of them did it, right? But the only reason they were even able to escape was because my aunt was able to call a friend she went to school with who was literally had captured us. And he was just like, you know what, fuck it, they're good people, let them go, right? So like when we talk about like friends, like, dude, it is literally like you're coming after me because you have to. So, you know, sorry to get fucking, you know, a little.
No, I'm interested, bro. This is crazy.
But dude, I just wanted to paint that picture because, you know, a lot of people don't know. And for me, I try to downplay it a lot, you know, where it's not on purpose, but it's like, to me, I'm like, oh, that's a past, whatever, it's done. You know, and you forgive, but you don't forget kind of thing. But dude, just to paint that picture of like what was going on, you know? So fast forward in a little bit, my mom escapes, my dad escaped. And when I was born, dude, I was born a refugee. So someone who doesn't have a home. And I didn't have a home for 3 years. So we went to like different shelters, friends' places that they knew in Germany. I mean, dude, we'd never had like a legit home until I was about 4 when we could go back to Bosnia. Right, so all that time we're going from camps to friend's house to wherever, and then we go back to Bosnia, and that was the first time I had a house for like 6 months, 7 months, right before we end up, you know, making a little transition to another refugee camp before I came to America. So realistically, the first 3.5, 4 years of my life, we didn't have a home, you know, and when we moved to America, dude, that was like, I didn't know anything different, right? Like, to me, I moved so much and I saw so many different people that it was normal to me. You know, like when we got there, I was like, oh, when's the next time we're going to move? Like, it's probably going to be a couple months. Like, it was just a normal thing. And, you know, dude, like, I hope that kind of answers a little bit of the story background of how I even got to America. But, you know, there's a lot more to it. But yeah, man, when I got here, it was different, like a culture shock, right? Like, dude, but again, I didn't know I had a story at the time. You know, and again, it took me to getting older you know, getting through a lot of different shit, you know, dealing with people, you know, my parents were dealt, you know, a shitty hand, let's say, right? But dude, the best part about it, and you know, going back to why I think I am the way I am, is because even through all that, they were still positive. They still cared. They still helped people. Like my mom would give the shirt off her back right now, even if she didn't, if she needed it, she would still take it, give it to someone else. Like that's just how they were. And so I think I just adopted all that, man. And, you know, once you kind of grow up too, man, like, you know, I was bullied a little bit. You know, obviously you don't know how to speak the language, different, right? Different religion. There was even a point where I couldn't even talk about my religion. Like whenever 9/11 happened, dude, I remember my mom sitting down and being like, hey, don't tell anyone. Like at this time where we're at, I don't know what can happen. Don't say a single fucking word. So that was just kind of the case, right? And by the way, that was a normal reaction from a lot of parents at the time that were Bosnian that lived in St. Louis. Because dude, you just come back from a place that you were being hunted. And now it's like World Trade Center, Muslims. And you're like, oh,
Well, and this was just like 6 years after y'all experienced this too.
Mm-hmm. And imagine, it's like, dude, imagine, and think about this. It's like, imagine the trauma. Imagine, like, dude, and by the way, they're not 35 years old. They're 23, 24, 25. That's our age, dude. And by the way, at this time, there's no internet, there's no Google, there's no maps. Like, how the fuck do you figure this out? And it's like, dude, when I even think about that alone, I'm like it's mind-blowing, right? And for them to just figure out what they figured out, like, dude, you know, kind of what we did with the war room, right? Like, when I say family, like, bro, that's why it's such a big thing. It's because, like, if they're able to do that and go through all that shit, dude, I can't make any excuses. Like, if I don't live out to that full potential, dude, I'm letting everyone down, right? But, dude, yeah, it's crazy shit, right? Like, there's a lot of craziness to it.
I mean, it all unfolds because once you get to know you, it all makes sense, you know? And I think when you explain these things to me, man, like, you're so giving, but I got a big question for you. Is it hard for you to receive?
That's good, man. I do think so. But I think it's because I'm okay with not getting, right? Like, I know my time will come.
Was it like a self-defense thing? Like, no, I'm just going to keep giving because you're not feel like you're appreciated? Like,
That's a
you
good point.
appreciate the receiving? Like, it feels funny. Like, this is awkward to me. Do I deserve to receive something?
I've thought about this a little bit.
Are you deserving?
I do, dude.
Or
I
does it
believe
make you
so.
feel funny? So you're just like, oh, I'm going to keep push and give.
I believe I am, but I believe I'm okay if I didn't have anything, to the point that I want to give others that can't deal with that, right? Like, if I lost everything today, I'll be
Fine.
I'm happy. I got the skill set. I know what I can do.
Well,
Like,
you've been through the trenches.
You're right.
Multiple different spaces. Your family's been through the trenches, so you've seen a completely different outcome of the world.
Mhm.
I mean, I tell everybody to go to Bali and watch everybody just watch. Just look at perspective. They have no shoes, no nothing. Their kids are running around. They're laughing. They're making jokes. It's like, we're over here trying to eat an untasty carrot.
Mhm.
What happens when you eat the carrot? Shit tastes like shit. But it's like, it just blows my mind. And hearing stories like you, man, it's like, you're an inspiration and a light in a lot of dark.
Appreciate
And, you know, I know you need this story to get out more, bro, because there's so much impact. There's so much more to give out of you that it's like, this is just a small pond, bro, compared to the ocean that you're going to create.
I appreciate that, brother. I really
You know,
do.
like, I'd love to see you continue to push that story, and then also be like, wait a minute, I need to receive just as much as I need to give.
I agree with you.
Because people also want to help you. You know what I mean? So I don't know, Chris, what do you think about that? I know your brain's processing a bunch of
first off, Dino, like, there's just a lot to unpack with
I'm
you
sorry,
in
yeah.
general, bro. Like, you're just so dense as a human in a good way, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
just
absolutely.
a lot for you to give, and I see how you are with people. I see you running around first Phorm, making sure everyone's good with everything they've got, on top of the people coming in, making sure the weights are all set perfectly, cleaning up the sinks after everyone, bro, without even a complaint. I've yet to hear one complaint come out of your mouth about anything,
Bro, I appreciate
regardless of
True.
the day.
he did hurt his back the other day. Oh, my back.
I
That was
did,
the
I
first
did.
one. I heard one.
I did,
He's
I
like,
did.
You might have, like,
But I still did the
fractured
workout
vertebrae,
yesterday.
bro,
He
you
did.
know?
No excuses.
I did the workout
That's
yesterday.
what I'm saying. He did the HIIT workout. He did the runs. He's going to do it tomorrow morning again.
We're gonna fucking go through
I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
it's a no excuse mentality. And after hearing your story, I mean, you've told me a bit of it before, but to hear it come out of you now, it's just incredible, man. And like Weston said, it just makes total sense as to why you are the person that you are. I think it's interesting because, like, you grew up around that, and that was like your normal, right? And you said you came here to the United States, and it was a culture shock. In what way was it a culture shock? Was it like wow, this is how people actually live, or it was like you're kind of in PTSD mode of like, when's someone going to come after me, or who do I need to be afraid of? Like, what was the mindset of the culture shock?
That's a really good question. I don't think there was ever like a fear of someone like coming after me or anything of that nature. It was, when I grew up or spent most of my time in Germany. So, I learned German. I spent a lot of time with just not too many kids my age. It was just more old adults. So when I had to go to school, it was different, right? Like I'm like, oh shit, what is this? How this look like? And on top of that, I don't speak English. Just for reference, by the way, this is fucking ironic, but I learned English through watching Dora the Explorer.
Bro, I can't even hear an accent.
Isn't it crazy?
I've yet to hear an accent come out of you.
Fuck yeah. I could pass for a lot of things, guys. But dude, I think yeah, man, I don't know.
Oh, well, can we dive into something? He actually
Yeah.
became a professional soccer player. No big deal.
Yeah, he forgot to mention that one.
I mean, it was only for a couple months. I mean, no,
it's actually 6 months. That's 4 more than 2. So
that's fair.
um,
That's fair.
that's incredible. Just the work ethic. I'm just so curious, and I love to study this because Navy SEALs actually.
Mhm.
There's like a massive percentage that kids that go through trauma before they're 8 years old become Navy SEAls.
That's interesting.
So when they go through trauma before 8, they have already adapted how to problem solve and take on responsibilities at that young of an age. Chris probably could be a Navy SEAL. Truly. No,
He
like,
looks like
I'm
one,
dead
bro.
serious.
He looks like
You're logical, but like you have a mentality like when you went through the things with your dad, like it. I do truly think you'd be. I think you could be a Navy SEAL.
I feel like now, because I had a problem with authority in a way when I was younger, and I'm stubborn son of a bitch. But now I feel like I could be. I could be a soldier, right? I could be Marine or whatever.
Well, you're smart and you're physical, but like you're
Back in the
calculated and
day-
you're logical.
I'm not as mentally tough, or I wasn't as mentally tough as I'd like to think I was. Back
For sure.
In the day. Especially looking at now, I'm like, wow, I was a fucking pussy. Like, sorry, Grandma.
All right, girl. All right, girl.
Dude, I with that alone, I think it's easy to think that back in the day, but it's like, dude, imagine how many kids would have been able to get to where you're at now with that type of situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a certain thing to be said about the uniqueness of finding a way to filter out trauma at the time,
Yeah.
right? Like, as a kid, it's like, even as adults, right? You have two ways to operate, right? When something hits, either how do I fix this or just go back into the comfort, just blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you made that
Well, it's
shift.
also the parenting, right? Like kids will throw a fit. This is what I did. I would throw a fit till I got something, right?
Mhm.
It became normal. So it's like, why do I try to problem solve when somebody's probably going to problem solve for me, right?
That's
That's a problem we see today. Is like, the toy breaks. Like, well, instead of just buying a new toy, oh, you know what? We'll just throw it away. You tell the kid, oh no, we'll just throw it away, and they're like, no, I want my toy, and they'll sit there with the wheel and the tractor, and they'll find a way to put the toy back because they don't want to get rid of it, right? But people don't think of it that way. They just, throw the toy away. Let's get another one,
Such a good point.
right? And so I think, I can go on with that one, but I need
like
to dive back into something.
Okay, fair. And by the way, before you go, I think there's actually I don't remember the exact study, but I remember having a conversation about it. If you look at kids at a certain age, and I want to say it's like before 5, they're all considered geniuses.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like they're all at that genius level because they're so creative. They're able to think. They're doing these things.
That is the art of being bored.
Once you get into 13, that's when it shifts and it goes down to like 5% or 2%.
Yeah, it's because you're thinking about pussy. That's why.
That's the one thing they did
Puberty.
in research, dog.
Yeah, we're a
You
little
get distracted.
then.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Do you have that lighter, by the way, for this?
Right there.
All right.
Yeah,
Go
no. So I'm mind blown. Because we've known you for a bit and we don't know a whole full story, and I actually want to dive in really deep to you one day and really understand that. And like we've talked about as well, like I got a question for you, Nate. How do you go through the trenches, and how would you teach someone to go through the trenches? What if somebody had it made? What if they didn't have Dino's life, and you're trying to coach them and teach them to adapt and problem solve? Like, do you think people can problem solve without going through the trenches?
I do,
Yeah.
but it's a learned skill, and it's perishable. Like, you have to practice it every day, right? And that's where the art of doing hard things, kind of like what Chris is talking about, that developing that discipline. Like, Chris didn't have the mental toughness, right, that he does now. back in the day, which would have required to be a Navy SEAL per se. But when we really look at the acquiring skills, building skills, of course it takes time. But I 100% do believe that if you have this cushy lifestyle and you didn't grow up with hardship or go through things like Dino went through, you can still gain that perspective. I mean, I'll never understand what it took for Dino to become Dino, but that's not a concern of mine. I'm trying to become Nate, the best version of Nate that I can be. And so it's all.
How do you think you become the best version of Nate?
Well, it
Like,
starts.
What are some things you think is helpful that like you picked up, you watched, you listened, how did you become Nate?
I think exactly what all those examples you mentioned. Listen, observe, like build relationships with people. I mean, you're a big connections guy. You see the connections you have as your currency, right?
That's our quote.
Exactly. So I think the more people you can talk to, the more people you can learn from, man, that's the best way to become the best version of yourself, because now you get to kind of pick and choose lessons from other people. I mean, we talk about it with Sal all the time. Like, the books that you read every day is like the best way you can acquire knowledge, because you're learning from all these people's lifetime of experience.
Dude, so I had a friend of mine, Christian Ortega, passed away, but dude, I'll never forget, because I was in the party scene, but I didn't party. Like, I didn't do the drugs, I didn't drink.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, he would party all night, and I would go to bed early, because I don't party. So I would go to bed too. He'd go to bed. I would wake up in the morning at 8 a.m. to go run Camelback in Arizona, and I was like super physically fit at this point. He would be up reading after the bar. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, you just stayed up all night and now you're reading into the morning? He goes, dude, I can learn what somebody did in 40 years in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And I just, ever since that day, I was like, because I was so stubborn, dude. Like, caught and taught is the two things that I've trying to unteach myself from my dad, of how he has a perspective. And so, like, I used to think those self-help books and podcasts, like, that shit's stupid. I couldn't get into it, man. I don't know. And I had an ego back then. But when he told me that, it's like, dude, that actually clicked and made sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Do you think
100%.
that clicked for you because he was your friend, right? Someone you trusted, had been around for so long.
Well, it's a different perspective. I mean, when you're in the bar industry and everybody just wants to run around and do stupid shit, he was doing stupid shit to benefit other shit. Cool, he might have been partying, and yeah, he did pass away, but like, it was one of those things where he was using his connections, learning the assets, and then he was going to build something bigger than you could have ever thought. And people would have been shocked by it because they didn't know that he had both sides of the fun party guy, but also, he's brilliant. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And so that's what kind of threw me out there, because I'm very golden retriever and he was very golden retriever. But then I saw him talk in a different light, and I was like, I need to learn that. I need to be the business savvy. I need to learn connections. I needed to do that. So that definitely changed my life when he told me that, and I'll never forget it. And I can't tell you really what book, but I remember the first podcast I listened to, which was Andy's. And that just full circle. I told you guys today, which is so weird. And now y'all are here, and we've been to First Phorm, and like Chris, I think this is cool about the visionary side, but Chris has seen me for hours draw on paper First Phorm. Like, how many buildings did I draw over and over and over that are like, obviously we're at the studio, but you go into First Phorm, like, how many drawings did I do like First Phorm?
Yeah, I mean, different color.
Can y'all tell?
Yeah, clearly.
But it's like, dude, if you could jump in my brain for a day, it's like, this is it. And I obviously want to tweak it and innovate it to our own aesthetic and grow it with Chris. So the studio has been such a path, man, for years, but it's just surreal now. I mean, obviously having you guys out here from First Phorm, where the inspiration, now we're sitting here smoking cigars at the studio. Phase one.
Phase one,
Phase one.
baby.
Yeah, like
A lot of stuff over there.
talking to Andy, how long does it take? And he said 25 fucking years. And I'm like, all right, we're 8. I'll take it. I'll fucking take it.
Got some time.
Like, we're working. We're fucking grinding. And we might not see the light today, but we will see it soon. And I think that's the cool part, is we'll see it soon. And by the time when we actually see it, everybody's going to see it. Dude, dude, them guys have been grinding. We want to be a part of whatever they're doing.
Well, people are already seeing it, and that's the coolest part about these workouts that we put on every weekend is like that happened naturally. It wasn't forced. It started with, hey, I found this rack on Facebook Market sitting behind us for $600. Like, should we get it? Yeah, fuck it, let's get it. And then what? Truck driver drives by. Hey, is this a gym? Where do I sign up? Friends drive by and see it. This is awesome. Like,
Tow
we should
truck
do a
driver,
workout here.
18-wheeler driver.
That's awesome.
First
bro.
weekend we had like what, eight people out here working out, just want to get better Saturday morning.
Yeah, now we're like 15, 20.
Yeah.
We got sponsorships.
Yeah.
So it's crazy the community we want to build. We want to build it in a different space. I think a lot of people go straight to fitness. We want to go straight to mental. Right? We know that if we can coach the mental, the physical aligns, and like you end up turning out and looking like Chris. Like, it's facts. It's actionable.
That's what we all wish for, brother.
Right, but there's a big gap. Is like a lot of fitness people are the most insecure people that I know.
Oh, they still see themselves as that little fat kid or that
Fat kid
like,
or skinny kid.
Skinny kid, either one. Yeah, fat's for me, so that's why.
And so that's why I think we hyper focus on the belief aspect of like, you know, you go through work. Like I would recommend you guys to literally go back to work. I know you do this in your own version, but like try it a different way and ask people how they're really doing. You know, and like go give them a sticky note that says, hey, what's your mission of life? And watch them just be shocked because they haven't even thought about it. We did a war room. And what did you say about the war room?
What did I say about the war?
I asked you about joy and happiness. And I was like, what have you ever woke up and thought about these things?
Yeah, no. Like this is the first time. I'm 26 years old and I never, ever even thought about what really makes me happy other than tangible things that could be gone tomorrow. I don't know.
You remember your 3?
No, I don't actually.
You got it written down.
I have them written down. Okay.
Like I told you guys today, we were at Lowe's, and Chris, I always get to brag about you, and you're the coolest asset in the whole entire world to me. But seeing Chris happy at 26 years old, genuinely pure smile that he did it for himself was the coolest feeling in the whole wide world. Like he went through that shit, and it took him 26 years to go, you know what? I'm proud of Chris Hinckley.
We went through a lot of that together.
My first one we went through, you went through my first one.
Yeah.
Y'all don't know this story. I lived with Chris for a minute. I don't know if y'all know that story.
I think, yeah, I do. We talked about this.
Yeah, but, you know, getting kicked out of your house, and me and Chris went to the gym, barely know each other really, kind of, to be honest.
Yeah.
Chris was like, get in the truck. Didn't question, didn't think.
It was like Andrew's in college. We got an empty room. Just come stay.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, that's crazy, too. When you think about the fact, it was almost like, you know, I don't know if you guys believe in energy, vibrations, all that kind of stuff. Like, I know it sounds woo-woo, but, like, I'm a firm believer of, like, the divine intervention, right? Like, what you put out, regardless of if you say it or if it's in here, those things come to fruition in some way, shape, or form, right?
It did. Chris helped me through my furnace, and then Chris went through his furnace, and I was there. Chris, you know, stayed on the couch, and we learned business together, and Chris pulled himself out of there. And luckily, I could have been a hand to push him sometimes, but, you know, he did it on his own, and it was the coolest thing to watch. And so,
I want to hit on something there real quick, because that's a very important aspect of a relationship is, you know, Chris didn't bring you into his home with anything to expect in return, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, he knows
it was the right thing to do.
And that's how I was raised.
And so that's the importance that I've learned a lot about relationships is like, hey, I want you to really look into the relationships that you have, and are they genuine or are they very transactional? Because if you're doing things for people because you're expecting something in return, then your intent is in the wrong place.
And that's the thing that's the hardest thing, right? Like, doing things out of love, not for love, is very difficult.
Yeah.
Because in reality, we're human beings, being human, right? We're not perfect in that space. So it's hard to really not have expectations. And that's why I think it's very important to put it all on the table and go, hey, man, this is my expectation of you and my standard of you. If that doesn't really meet or align, like, let's talk about it.
And I think that's important. There's a distinction between expectations and, like, holding someone to a high standard, right? It's like you kind of expect them to be at this level, but it's not like a dead set expectation. It's like, I want you to be here because I love you and I want the best for you. It's not that like I expect you to be here, and if you're not, like, we're not friends.
100%.
Well,
100%.
my dad is a fucking hard motherfucker. And I've told Chris this, and I actually said this in the first podcast, but, having potential in someone is very easy to see, unless you're looking in the mirror, right? And like when I have high expectations or high potential of you, and I'm hard on you, why wouldn't I be? Why would I want you to be under your standard or under your potential?
Then
You're
don't
not
care.
You're not
you
a friend.
don't care.
You're not somebody that I'm going to align with because you're not making me better or stronger, right? Like I want to be roots, not leaves.
Mhm.
What's sticking and what's falling out. And so like that's why our relationship is so good, is because no matter what's going on, I love to push Chris. I love it. And sometimes he's like, fuck, God damn it, Weston, you fucking son of a bitch. But then we get done with the video and it's like, this was worth everything working this hard towards to get somewhere.
Oh yeah, always.
Like every time.
Dude, it's awesome. I think it's
time.
because you guys believe in each other, like not more than the other one believes, but it's like when you're having a bad day or maybe things are going down, he believes in you more than you can imagine. And then same for you too, right? It's like sometimes having that person there is so important. Not sometimes, I think it's very important.
It's
right?
the trust.
Absolutely, bro.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, most of the time in life, we just get caught up in our own head thinking about all the shit's going on. And realistically, that's really selfish of us, right? Because we get so in that we forget what's actually happening. And sometimes having someone there to give you that wake-up call, is all what you need.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about fear of judgment. I think with that as well as, checking on your strong friends. Those strong friends used to hate themselves. So they blended in multiple ways to be a chameleon. And so it's like really hard to pick up identity of, is this person having a good or bad day? Chris knows me, and I know Chris so well that I know exactly when his chin drops, he's drained. I know exactly the way he walks in a room because I analyze so much. And I don't know if it was because of sign language and eyebrows and facial expressions.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%
But
is.
reading people with the emotional intelligence side, I wish people, because usually the people that are your strong friends are the motivators. They're the pushers, right? But there's not very many people that check on the motivators or the pushers.
Oh, true. So true.
Right? And that's the expectation is, why doesn't anybody check on me sometimes? And it's like sometimes you, instead of just constantly thinking, well, this person didn't check on me or whatever, that's where I've had to learn to go communicate and just speak up going, hey, brother, can I chat with you? Because it might not ever have crossed his mind, or friends might have never crossed his mind that, damn, Weston needs to talk to somebody too. Unless I'm vocal about it, because I pretend that I'm this, happy-go-lucky all the time. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I get it, bro. I get it so much. I think, man,
That's when it goes back to receiving. Is like, when somebody does check on me, I just fucking defend, bro. It's like this armor, like, yeah, I'm good. And I don't know how to let that shit down. I don't. And it's because I'm scared of the judgment. Hey, will you pass me that lighter, big dog?
You know what I think happens with that? Because, dude, I think about it a lot for myself. And, dude, I've gotten a million times better because it, like, since, growing up and going through all the shit. But it was a simple thing of, like, where's my mindset at? Like, what am I thinking about? Like, for example, if I'm like, hey, man, Chris hasn't checked in on me in a while, why am I thinking that? And what do I know is even going on with Chris? Right? Like, why am I assuming that he just knows that I'm struggling? Why am I assuming these things?
Because
It's
I
like,
do it.
1000%. And the question, and dude, this is just for anything in life. It's, what do you actually know? Not what do you think, what do you actually know? Because there's a big difference.
Facts.
And emotions take over a lot. And when we're, struggle to receive, that's an emotion comes out, right? No, I don't want this, dude. No one fuck, you know what I mean? And it can go negative or positive, but usually goes negative.
Well,
right?
I'm curious in this space is like, if you're a leader and you're the entrepreneur, you're the CEO, all these things, is it good to show those emotions of weakness in those spaces? Or is it just, you know what, I'm strong as a motherfucker? Because if it's a weird battle.
Dude, I have, I truly believe this. I say showing those weaknesses is a bigger strength than not. The reason I think people, especially in leadership positions, don't is because they think that they'll be weak. Dude, if I'm on 24/7 and I'm this tough guy, do you ever think you can beat me then? No, because you're like, fuck, man, I'm struggling. He never struggles. Dude, can I even do that? I'm actually taking away from you more than you even know. Right. But if I can share those struggles, oh, shit, he's human. Oh, fuck, man. You know how much better you feel when there's someone out there that, hey, is your leader or someone you're looking up to who's also struggling?
Well, there was a podcast I sent Chris the other day, and I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was like, your employees know your pain points.
Yeah,
They'll
they know
see
you
it.
better than anyone.
Bro, like, you can go, hey, like, where do I struggle and where am I good?
Mhm.
Like, your people already know, but I do think there's a limit to it, right? If I was in the military and I'm looking up to my specific gangster that's saving my fucking ass, I'm sorry, but I don't want to see a weakness. I want to lean in and go on, oh, yeah, me and Chris, he's going through some shit. I'm going through some shit. We are both in the trench, right? But being strong enough to lead a team, to have that mentality, I do think is important. And I don't know the balance of that is like, you know, if Andy came out and was like, hey, I'm fucking upset today, it would probably create people to have a connection, but it would also make people drop a little bit. On, okay.
I see what you're saying.
Well, and I mean, if you want to know the answer to that question, I mean, first off, you'll never find it. But if you want a good idea, just read any of Jocko's books. Like, he talks about that in Dichotomy of Leadership.
I love good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Dichotomy of Leadership. Leadership Strategy and Tactics is one of my favorite books that Jocko's written, just because it really dives deep into concepts like that. Whereas, like, when is it okay to show my weaknesses? When is it okay to show my team that I struggle just like they do? But, you know, there's a time and place, right? You don't want to show them, hey, guys, I'm struggling, when you're in a fucking firefight.
That's what I'm
right?
saying. Like, certain time periods.
Yeah.
It's like, we go through phases, bro, where we have 12 projects going on, and like me and Chris are fucking drinking out of the fire gasoline hose.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, if we aren't on top of our shit, it gives everybody else a reason not to be on their shit.
Oh,
Well,
Even
not
though
only
me and him
that-
might be fucking sucking air, we don't show it. I don't know. What do you?
Well, not only that, it's like it's a bigger responsibility. It's bigger than us now.
Mhm.
Like when it's just me and him, like if we have a lull or if like, you know, we're just drained and we just have to crash for a couple days, like it's not a big deal. We can't do that anymore.
Right.
Like we have people to pay.
Mhm.
We got to keep them busy. We got to keep them motivated, help them be better and do what they want to do in life. Like it's bigger than us now.
I love that.
And I think that's like what a lot of people get when they have kids, right? It's like it's bigger than them. It's selfless. It's not about you anymore. And that's like a motivator and a drive, right? It's the fuel that puts the gasoline on it.
I think leadership in general is not a black or white, and I think that's where a lot of people get like stuck on, right? Because to your point of, you know, sharing those struggles or challenges. Well, what if I told you like, hey, I'm struggling, but this is what I'm doing to fix it, right? It's different than like, oh man, I'm having a shitty day, guys. This sucks. I'm like, fuck, I don't want that to
Those
be
are
my leader.
complaints. Yeah.
Right,
Absolutely.
that's
Right,
We
we're
live
like-
on the motto of no bad days, bad moments.
100%. And I
It's
think it's
really
being able
easy
to
to switch.
communicate it.
Yeah, and I think just having empathy and appreciating people and listening to their I mean, I think you can vent in a space. Like me and Chris could vent after the fact that we've related to the people that are going through something.
100%. 100%.
But I struggle with, you know, being invincible, right? I know Chris does too in different spaces. Like Chris, I put a lot on Chris's plate, and Chris doesn't want to tell me no. He doesn't.
Mm.
And he'll do a task list that's 100 miles long instead of going, hey, bro, can you help me? I don't think I've ever heard it. I really, truly
Yeah.
don't think he's been like, hey, bro, I got a lot of responsibilities. Can you maybe check out these 4 and help me with these?
Mhm.
And that's something I'm like, Chris, you got to communicate with me. I got to help you.
Mhm.
You know, and it's weird because we go through certain phases where sometimes Chris is rowing 100 miles an hour and I'm rowing a little bit less, or it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
And so it balances, but that's something in business I think is confusing. Is we're okay with it.
Mhm.
I think people that join the business and entrepreneur to intrapreneur don't.
I think, dude, I agree, and I not disagree, but I think there's two sides to that coin, right? Where it's like you have to know your people, you know, and you have to understand that balance is not like this thing that it's 50-50, right? It's like, nah, dude, sometimes you're carrying 70.
I was just about to say that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, bro, you know what, bro? You carried 70. I know you're fucking struggling. I got the next 70. Like, you take the 30 this time, right?
But
It's
that's so rare, bro.
like, but that's
is
the
rare.
difference of
It's the
having
trust.
correct,
It
bro.
comes back to the trust, right? Trust that, you know, if I'm handling finances, he knows that I'm not going to be skimming money and bringing more onto my
100%.
bank account.
I have to trust that.
You have to.
Yeah, and like, you know, vice versa, you know.
Well, and I think
I'm
that
not
just
the vice
comes
versa.
down to
Yeah.
trusting
what I'm saying?
that.
Yeah, you have to know the person, right? You have to know your people. You have to know your
Mhm.
team. You have to, dude. It's communication at that point too. Sorry, Nate. Go ahead.
No, I was just like, to simplify it, it just goes down to trusting that, the people that you're working with are going to put their full effort every single time, no matter what they're doing. Like, even if sometimes their full effort is going to be 30.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes their full effort is going to be 80. But like, that's, I think, why you guys work so well, is because you don't really have to really figure that out every single time that happens. You kind of just, hey,
Mhm.
we're rowing the boat as best as we can.
We understand we're human, and
Mhm.
we can't
Mhm.
each individually be 100, but together we can all the time.
Absolutely.
And so, like, some days, like Dino said, Weston will be 70, I'll be 30. And, like, he understands that he's going to have those times where he's 32 and I'm 70. Or maybe some days where he's 110 and I'm, like, negative
Yeah,
10.
yeah, hey,
You know what
it
I mean?
happens.
Like, it's a part of it.
Chris has changed that. I mean, Chris lives in the no excuse factor. There's very few people in the world that say what they do and do what they're gonna say what they do and actually accomplish it, right? I know Chris. I love him to death, dude. Chris sees in the future in a different way than I do, right? Like, we both are like, why are we not at this specific financial point? Why are we not at this specific space? And it's like, I thought about it today, and I'm like, I'm looking in the studio, and I'm like, I wouldn't change it. I really wouldn't change where we are, because I'm like, how grateful are we that we get to do this, even though we might not make, X amount of dollars, because our buddy Eric sent us this video. Did you watch that video? Eric sent us.
Of what?
It was on Instagram, and it was like, you're gonna be forgotten,
Oh, yeah, he sent me that.
dude.
Yeah,
And
in 100 years.
it fucked me up, because I'm like, if you got to live another lifetime and you were chasing the financial whatever it might be, would you have more time with your family? Would you really care about making $300,000 a year, or would you enjoy the fact that you were building something, accomplishing something, and doing it with the people at the same time? And like, I sat in the living room today, I'm like, that's really what we're doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, how cool is it that 3 years ago we were stuck in South Africa, 2 kids with a camera, basically, and, we were talking about stuff like this. And I think we actually have recordings of you and I, or you or I, talking about the studio and the community and a team of like-minded individuals and just a circle of people that do nothing but elevate with us. And it's here.
Since January, dude, we went on a retreat, and then me and Chris are sitting watching at the moon in the middle of fucking nowhere with no service.
Mexican jungle.
Chris was like, dude, I really don't know where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, we got back, and we looked at the fishbowl and not the straw. Because we've seen this vision. We're gonna production. It's like, shit's gonna change, and we have to make it change, because we have to continue to do things we're obsessed with and enjoy doing, or like, what the fuck are we doing in the first place?
Bro.
Like, if we're just smashing the fucking hammer to the nail and at the same fucking time, well, it's in the fence.
Right.
This isn't doing anything anymore. Like, we have to stimulate our mind and our body of things we're passionate about. If not, we're never gonna do it. We're never gonna enjoy it.
You almost have to take a step back to take a step forward.
I think
Well-
really is figuring out where we were going is where I was confused at. Because, like, it starts with a passion, then it becomes a business, and then you're getting a lot of business, and you're like, this is awesome.
Right.
And then a little bit further down the road, you're like, wait, I can't do this forever.
You say yes till you can't, and then you continue to say yes, and now it's like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Now we can't reverse anything. Like, we're in the hole.
Yeah.
I think it's
we either dig a tunnel, or that's the only way we're getting out of here. We don't have a ladder. So we're gonna fucking build a tunnel until we get to the fucking opening, wherever it is. And it's interesting, because I got back, and I'm like, dude, I went nuts on like what I thought my life would be like when I'm 40, 50 years old. And Exclusive Life came to life. And Chris looked at me like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about?
Like, I ain't
dog?
trying to be nobody's counselor. Like, I got enough problems to deal with. I'm not mentally right for that.
Dude,
Like,
we went,
bro, we're video.
Bro, that is
people.
such
Like,
a Chris thing.
dude, it went on for 3 days where I'm like, I'm fucking amped, dude. I'm like journaling days and days and days. And Chris is like, fuck no. Like, I could read it all over his head. Like, fuck off. We're video production. And finally, we did a war room with Chris in the cigar shop. And it was what, 3-hour conversation?
At least,
Holy
yeah.
Dude.
shit.
3-hour conversation, dude. And we broke down Chris and his talents and his gifts, and then all this stuff just kind of happening naturally. And like one of the two things that we really look into is like natural and restriction.
Mm-hmm.
What is restricting you and what is naturally happening for you? That's where people go blind. Stop fucking forcing something. Just let it align. And so that's why it's crazy from January to now August. We're here in the studio. We have this fitness that wasn't even a part of the product.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gaining the community. It's gaining the attraction that we wanted in the first place. That's the shit that's wild to me.
And the eye-opening part of that to me, when I was really like, oh, was when we were just talking with people, like our friends and clients, and just, dude at the grocery store. And all of a sudden, like, they would just open up to us.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we talk about these deep conversations of like the meaning of their life and what makes them happy and what they really want to do and where they're going and their goals and all this stuff. And it's like, this is naturally happening, like you're saying. Like, we're not forcing it.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there watching the moon, right? And it's like, okay, Chris, and I'm going to ask you guys this before we dive into Chris. What gives you energy and what drains your energy? That's a very easy question that's very difficult to answer.
Mm.
Do you know that question?
I do.
I mean, I know what gives me energy is human connection. Like, I love...
It can, and it can also drain you.
I mean, depends.
Can it?
I mean, for me, I just...
Here's a rule that one of our friends taught us. If I call you, are you excited to pick it up, or do you click hold?
Okay. So depending on the people,
Boom.
I guess.
Now you
Yes.
identified
Okay.
your drive
Mhm.
for those specific things or where your energy is. And so like Chris, dude, he was like, fuck, man, I'm going on a retreat with 70 people. I'm going to be fucking drained.
No cell service.
Right? And
Yeah.
that was the clarification for Chris to really dive into people
Mm.
and figure out if he aligns with them, because there's nothing more frustrating than Chris than wasting his time. If Chris wastes his
I can
time
tell.
with good human beings, like Chris, yeah, he will stay up till 12 o'clock to have this conversation because he's excited about it.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. Hands down.
And so like that's the thing, is like we figured out these secret questions that triggers people to really think about life for a second.
Mhm.
Because we're just scrolling through life. We're taught that we have to live this specific way. We're taught we have to do this job. We're taught we have to buy this house. All these expectations that we're supposed to live, but then you go to a different country and it's completely different. Like everybody in Rockwall, not everybody, I take that back. The small town effect.
Oh,
That
dude.
shit fucks people up
Oh,
forever.
dude.
And I it's so hard, and it's hard for me to get along with everybody at this point, because I'm like,
Mhm.
if you don't see the vision and you don't want to be better, I can't really physically give you my time, because I have too many people that align with me that I do want to spend my time with.
100%. Dude, I think you can even break it down when you think about the human connection is open-mindedness and closed-mindedness, right? Because how much easier is it to have a human connection with someone who is listening, who's asking questions, who's actually interested?
Yeah.
And then you have this other person, you're like, hey, man, dude, this is my dream. And you see it on their head like, dude, this guy's fucking dumb. I'm like, that's a waste of my energy,
Dude,
right?
how many people do you know that literally dream? I call it the 5-inch rule to the 32-inch. 5-inch rule in your head, 32 inches to paper. I think I get blue in the face because so many people ask for advice on actually chasing their dream, and they're so scared, and the risk and the judgment that they never actually get to live the life, because I've sat there on the fence and I've been on this side and I've been on this side, and I would never in my life not try to push the side I'm on today, everybody that I can talk to.
I actually, I like this point a lot. So there's a study that was done on dogs, and how it worked was, as the dog would try to escape, they would put him in like this little kennel, right? And when the dog would try to escape, they would shock him, right? And they would continue to shock him every time he tried to escape, to the point where he gets so scared that it has trauma of escaping,
Right. Yeah.
right? So then they're like, okay, how do we get the trauma to go away? And now, obviously, it's dog terms, but it's like that was their whole idea behind what they're trying to figure out. And so what they literally had to do was physically pull the dogs out of the kennel to show them that it was possible and rewire their trauma or their brain. And I think when you think about humans, it's like one of those things where, hey, having someone there to help push you, literally grab you and come with me, right? Like just like the dog, or It's going yourself. And I think it's so tough because when you think about the dog example, it's like, dude, the dog was so scared that he didn't even know he could until someone did it for him or pulled him out. As humans, we're lucky enough to have the capability to choose, right? Like, and even when you guys think about your lives, like, dude, your dad, he does some fucking cool shit, right? He's been very successful in his life in some way.
He didn't have a choice.
Exactly.
You talk to him about it.
But dude, that's how you pick that up, right? And you're able to make those decisions, be like, hey, I'm gonna do this, even though it might be scary or it might, I have this fear of not knowing exactly what's gonna go on. You're still gonna take that choice. For someone who gets beaten constantly and no, that choice is a lot harder. You know what I mean? And I think about it in that way where it's like, you almost sometimes have to take a person and just take them with you. Like, nah, bro, you don't have to come with me.
We've tried, man. That's the thing that hurts is like, dude, that goes back to the potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I don't know how many people we worked with now that we've literally yanked them out of their situation, provided something, provided a lifestyle, provided a belief,
mm-hmm.
and they still don't tap in, man. And then you get to the point where like, okay, I'm not going to not do this.
For sure.
But I got to evaluate it better.
I mean, dude, that's why there's only 1% of the world that is successful as they are, right? And it's like, dude, at the end of the day,
97-3.
What is it?
97-3.
Is it really? There you go, 97-3. But dude, when you also look at this from like a standpoint of the human mind, right? Like chemicals, like the brain, everything, it's so comfortable for them to not want to go and sit in that fear than it is to actually be uncomfortable and try and change your life.
And that goes back to judgment for most people.
I agree. I think a lot of it happens, like even when you remove that judgment piece or fear or just the mindset, it's the body's ability to want that, right? Like it's addicted to that feeling of fear. Because when you have it for 20 plus years, 30 plus years, that's why it's so hard to change people, is because it becomes a part of you. Regardless if you're like, I don't want to fucking feel this. Your body's like, well, brother, I want to, right? It's like an addiction. And I think that's where people struggle is they feel that and they just want to go back to it, right? It's like when you think about females that, bad example, but it's like when they early on have sexual assault or whatever, how many times they go back to that same person that did it.
That
Like
shit blows my mind.
It does, but it's when you think about it, it's because at such a young age, their body adapted to that feeling of like, I'm not enough or anxiousness or fear that they don't know how to break through it, right? It becomes addicting. You know what I mean? So I think that's a lot of what stops people because everyone has the same capability. Right? Like if I looked at you in a third person point of view, I'm like, I could tell you exactly what you need to do to be successful. But it's like, why can't I do that myself?
Mm-hmm.
It's because, again, to that fear, but it's addicting fear. Like we might even know it's there, but we're choosing not to dive into it, if that makes sense.
And that's where I study, dude. I heard this story about Kobe Bryant. I don't know if y'all have heard of this, but when he was 13, he was the worst player in his league. He did his whole entire season at 13 years old and didn't score 1 point. And he got done with the first season, and he was just obliterated. And his dad told him, he goes, I don't care if you score 1 point. I'll always love you. And next season, he was the MVP of his league when he was 14 years old.
That's
so
fucking crazy.
But here is where I don't understand. Fear and discipline.
Mm.
If I lived in discipline versus fear, I wonder what my life would have looked like. Right? Because he lived in discipline. He wasn't scared that his dad, he didn't have a judgment from his dad. And that's where my brain confuses Kobe Bryant because I'm like, most people that's successful use fear to be Michael Jordan, to be Tom Brady. Tom Brady's a better example of discipline, but I'm curious of where his drive actually comes from. But Kobe talks about it, he's like, no, I didn't live in fear. And I just cannot wrap my head around it. Like, how did he become Kobe without fear?
Dude, I think this is so good, bro. It's kind of crazy because when you think about Kobe in general, like everything he's done, his mindset, his work ethic, everything, it's just different. But I think what happens a lot, man, is he was able to see it in a way where it's like, man, I'm loved. I have all this stuff. It's like I can just go out and be myself, right? I can just go out and play. I can just go out and do these things. I think why a lot of people struggle and stick with that fear, and then whenever they make it, they're not happy, right? Like this is something we talk about. You guys talk to me about this where you go out and consult people or do a project and you're like, dude, you have millions of dollars and you don't even know what makes you happy? What the fuck? Yeah. But then you can go to a homeless guy and be like, hey, man, are you happy? And he's going to be like, absolutely, brother, I'm alive. And you're just like, how's this work? And I think it's being able to tap in to the wiring of your brain. And I think that's what Kobe did so well. Because if you hear him speak, how he speaks and what he talks about, his mind is always thinking in a very logical but positive way, right? Like he knows that, hey, he might have never been the best, but he was going to chase after that motherfucker. Like one of his quotes, like, I know perfect is not obtainable, but I'm going to chase it because no one else will because they don't think it's obtainable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, boom, that makes so much fucking sense. But I think it's from doing it so many times, like talking to himself, visualizing, doing all these little things. Yeah,
Well, also, I mean, I think it can be simpler than that. It's like there's two fears that we're born with: fear of falling and fear of loud noises. And I'm religious. You know, everyone may not be religious, but there's reason behind that. God made us so that we feared those two things only, and everything else is not necessary to be fearful of.
Taught.
Right? It's taught. It's
Absolutely.
learned. It's
Absolutely.
things that we go through in life. It's characteristics that we place on ourselves that aren't actually real. There's an interesting story about Jim Carrey, and he went through the Jerry Maguire role, I believe, or one of his major roles.
No, it was one where he's trapped in a.
Truman Show.
I want to say it's Truman Show.
Yeah, it's
Well, one of his big breakout roles, you know, he goes into character the whole time he's filming, right? And so he found that after filming, he had a hard time getting back to himself.
No, he didn't know. He didn't even know who he was.
He just lost himself completely. And so he came to the realization is like, if Jim Carrey was so easy to lose, then Jim Carrey is just another character that I placed on myself, just like all the other characters I play in my roles. So in reality, we create the people we are in real life in our minds.
Mhm.
And I think that's what Kobe did.
Boom.
Is he just always saw himself
Mhm.
as Kobe, as Mamba,
Mhm.
even at that young age. And
Mamba
that's
was actually taught from Tim Grover. So, and I don't know if you've read that book,
yeah, I've read it.
Winning and Relentless. He wasn't always the Mamba.
Mhm.
And basically Tim Grover taught him how to control the Mamba and use it in specific places, and that's where Mamba became Mamba.
He created Mamba solely on the fact that when he's in the game, he doesn't have to think, right? Because when you think about Kobe off the field, nicest guy ever. You know, have you guys seen the documentary Dream Team? I think it is where he
Yeah, where he
runs
ran
through,
over
when he
what's
runs through Paul
Yeah,
Gasol.
that's a great one.
That's Mamba mentality,
Yeah.
right? Off the field, I love you, brother. You know, it is what it
Teammate.
is. Yes, and I think to your point, Chris, he's like, he knows who he is, but he also knows who he has to be to become the best player in the world, right? So he's able to like almost take those two identities and know it's still the same person, but which one do I tap into at which time, right? Kind of like Jim Carrey, right? It's like, what character do you want to be? And I think Kobe just split it up in those two, right? It's like, hey, I'm the husband, I'm the dad, I'm the friend. Outside of this, I do this. But then when I'm in the game, fuck it, everybody. It's me, motherfucker. You know what I mean? And I think that's so important because it's kind of like one of those things, man, when you think about a lot of people that go to work, how much time do they stress at work and then carry all that shit home all the fucking time? And it's like, nah, brother, you got to check that because you got kids. You have to be present. You got to do this. And then you get to the point where the kids have trauma and all this stuff, and it was just because the dad couldn't handle his emotions or switch that mindset and be dad when he needs to, right? And I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's creating, character, right? But it's like, what identity do you want to have? Like, it is up to you, bro.
Entirely.
Like, entirely. Bro, you're a great fucking example of it. I mean, all you guys are, right?
Yeah,
like, even,
everybody-
dude, I
everybody
remember
is.
meeting Nate very early on. Like, it was maybe, 4 months into your career?
I mean, we knew each other since
sure.
like day one, but like
Leading, being on
you
the team.
you became my leader about 4 months in. Yep.
Bro, when I look at this kid now, I'm like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Because it's not the same. And it takes time to develop. It's not even maybe like you have a new identity. It's just like you've thought about things in a different way that opened your mind. And it's like you're training those things, but it's like same thing with you, man. It's like your weight loss journey. It's your mindset now, what you've done. Bro, you too, bro. Like when you think about all the shit that you've gone through and to be able to be where you're at now when all those people doubted you, all this other shit, it's like, bro, you have to go to fucking creation mode to do that.
Yeah, bro, you've lived more than anyone I know. Like you've got a story for everything.
I have definitely done experiences. One of the cool things I specifically
Done
remember,
experiences.
Done.
I love that.
I remember telling Chris was sick with COVID in Africa, and his girlfriend broke up with him all at the same time, and he was throwing up next to the toilet.
Oh, poor me,
shit,
right?
dude.
Came home, Never saw her again. Took the dogs. Fucking cranked the air conditioning down. Left him with some toilet paper.
Yeah.
It was a joke, bro. And that was her being an avoidant. But I'll never forget sitting in the loft and having deep conversations with Chris. And I was like, dude, there's going to be a day where you're going to be so free where you can stand on top of a parking garage and be happy with your life and just scream it to the world. It's like, just trust it. I was like, dude, you're going to go through this. You're going to become a superhuman. And you're going to get up on that parking garage and be free. I don't know if you remember that.
Still trying to find the parking garage,
Yeah.
but I had that, I had that moment.
Dude, and it's just like, it's so surreal when you take the work and you do the mental and you go through your shit and you figure out who you want to be, man. Now, you asked me today what happiness was, and it was like your truest form of identity, looking in the mirror, knowing you're actually seeing who you actually are, and you're not seeing the ghost, right? And so, you know, are you the villain or are you the superhero in your own movie?
Ooh.
And a lot of times we're our own villain. We're the ones dragging us down. It's not you. It's not you. It's not you. It's me. And that goes back to self-belief. And I think once you identify your path and where you want to go, you will find the truest road to happiness once you believe your identity.
That's
What,
gotta be
what have you guys learned so far being in Texas?
Apparently, everything's bigger in Texas.
Hell
You
yeah,
know
brother.
what I'm saying?
Only cigars around here, you know what I mean? Just big hearts.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's maybe not learned, but it's something. It's just like maybe a reset kind of thing, or like something you just like bring back to the surface. And it's just like how simpler life is than we make it, right? Like being more present. I think I told you this, but it's been easier to be present and like holy shit, dude. I kind of. You know, when you go,
Clarity.
yeah, absolutely. That's the best way to put it. It's like, dude, I haven't stressed over anything. I haven't thought about anything. I've just been here. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot I got to do that over there too. You know what I mean? But I think it happens to all of us, right? It's not 24/7 thing, but you know, I think when you just get absorbed through your day, you kind of forget to just take a step back and be like, oh shit, man, I got it pretty good, right?
Scoot up a little bit.
Yeah,
So we're feeling some gratitude
we're
here.
definitely feeling some gratitude.
I love it.
Where you at?
Dude, I mean, my thoughts that keep coming back, like spending time here with you guys, you know, last time I saw you guys, you didn't have your studio yet.
That's true.
But it's cool to, you know, have people to look at. You know, you guys are visionaries, right? You're building something. Hey,
I've got it
encouraging you
too,
with
but
this.
I
Okay,
got a story for that in a minute.
but
He creates the pieces for the vision.
yeah. But you know, me and Dino, we get to spend every day with people like you guys. You know, we get to see Andy, Sal, Chris, all these people who have built something spectacular that's never been done, but we're still in the midst of building it. But to see you guys in, you know, still somewhat in your infancy stage, right? Even though you're 8
we're just
years
getting
in.
started. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Just the beginning.
I haven't started yet.
Like it's cool it gives me that perspective of like, man, like I wonder if this is what it was like when it was just like, you know, 5 guys in a warehouse selling protein powder.
I think about that all the time.
Bro.
Like, what is the next 5 years gonna look like?
Dude.
Because I have no clue.
Mhm.
It's so clear to me. It's not even funny.
Well, dude, and of course, Mr. Visionary, right? Like when, like talking to you is like talking to Andy, right? Andy, when we talked about this in the truck yesterday. You know, you gotta have a visionary, and then you have to have a calculated risk taker, right? So
That's
boom, boom.
Bam,
two of us.
It
for sure.
works.
But like when I look at Andy, you know, Andy's building something that he's never going to be able to see the fruit from. You know, he's I mean, he even talks about this, is like at this point he's not doing it because he's going to benefit from what he's building. He's doing it because he knows the people that he's been able to bring in and, you know, get involved with all of this. They're going to be able to benefit from it, their families, you know, and people who even aren't at First Form, who don't work at First Form, just like the customers, the people's lives that are going to be changed, the legacy of what they've been built. So like, what I've learned down here in Texas is like, I get to be a little part of, you know, a legacy of what's being built, what's just getting started.
That's
and
cool, bro.
it's cool.
That was beautiful.
Oh
love
man,
that, bro.
Beautifully said.
Thank
Thank you.
I
bro.
love that. That really. That's why we play Slow to Rise, bro, for stuff like that. And Chris, I don't know if you remember this because you have a 100 task list, but we came out here one day and I said, I don't know if we were at the apartment or if we were here, and I was like, "What do you see?"
Apartment, rooftop, nighttime, skyline.
It's like, "What do you see, Chris?" He's like, "I mean, I see the studio," and I was like, "No, what do you see?" And what did you say?
I can't remember exactly.
You're like-
but I hadn't dreamed in a while.
You're like, "I don't know," and it just blew my mind because I'm like, "Dude, you're such a part of this." I'm like, "Stop, like, get out of your space for a second." And Chris is great at being in the present. He's phenomenal at it. He worries about the future for his family. He worries about what he wants in his life. It all aligns, but I was like, dude, can you in your brain draw on paper what else it looks like? I was like, what about all this fucking land next door? What the fuck does it look like? And it was cool to be able to break down the way Chris kind of was visualizing things and being a visionary in a space that he's really never even thought about. And so it's like, for me, man, I can't tell you guys how long I've been seeing this entire thing in my head. To where like this is being built and I can't even sleep because I'm thinking about next door. And so like that was a cool moment on the rooftop. Was like, to me, this is phase one of I don't know what. And that goes back to, you know, Chris is the best part about bringing me back in. I'm the train with no tracks and Chris is the tracks, you know, but it's cool to see us both dream. And you know, Chris has really tried to teach me to go, hey, dude, quit going shallow. Let's go deep. Let's niche down. Let's do this. And I'm like, I love you, Chris. I was like, I don't know if my brain operates like this. My whole life, everybody's limited me and put me in a fucking box. And that's where our new phase to phase one, like, I think this is going to be the limitless building. Whatever we love to do, whatever is naturally happening to us will continue to be limitless. And when I'm 50, 60 years old, I don't want to look back and go, yeah, we niched down because we made money. I want to look back at life going, we did everything we wanted to fucking do.
In a
That
way,
makes me, that gives me so much fuel.
in a way, we are niching down, right? But it's not niching down to weddings or events.
100%.
It's
Well, dude, since January, we've thought of consulting. We've thought of studio. We've thought of more thread shit. We've thought of exclusive connections, exclusive consulting. Like, we've thought of all the things that we're like, dude, this is naturally happening.
right.
And that's what I think is cool, man. So, like, when you're thinking of an Andy or you're thinking of a Sal or whoever did it, it's like you have to start somewhere, and then there's just no giving up. And I think, like, we've had conversations in our head of a little bit of doubt of, like, do we continue to scale and try to build this monster? And it's hard because we have, like, self-doubt in that space. And I don't know what it looks like in 10 years. I just know it's something.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
How are you guys even able to do this? And the reason I ask that is because when you say self-doubt on the, you know, the scaling side, because it's something you never did. It's like, bro, at one point you guys didn't even know that this was just a thought. And it's like you went out and fucking did it.
I've thought of this for so long. But I will say, in order to do this, there's things that pop in my mind. There's things when I first started where I was doing construction 40, 50, 60 hours a week, driving to the bar, getting home at 4 a.m., editing on Sunday for 2 years straight. I remember having $40 in my pocket every fucking day. After I got out of that position, Chris came along, helped me scale, organize. Chris didn't know exactly all the details of things, but he saw a fucking camera case that had fucking shit everywhere. And he's like, okay, the first thing I can do is organize these fucking cords.
I love that. I'm not surprised.
That was
Well,
the
but the
nice
coolest
first
thing about Chris was like, okay, I am great at listening. I'm going to use that to my advantage. Where's his pain points? And so Chris took over a lot of the pain points for me so that I could focus on other things. And so like Chris naturally helps develop, and like our elevator pitch is like, hey, I sell the dream and Chris processes it. You know, but I do think there's going to be a space in Chris's life where his brain expands and opens, where he is going to have his own vision inside exclusive for things that he's really passionate about, because there's going to be a day where he doesn't want to people manage. That's not necessarily something Chris wants to do.
Absolutely.
Right? He knows that it's going to be in the trenches for a bit. He knows whatever we develop, at the end of the day, it's going to be both of us fucking hustling our ass off. But now, like Chris is saying, like, dude, we used to take days off. We don't fucking take days off, because it's back to that quote that you wrote in that paper, is like, it's not me, it's we. I'm at the point now where I remember back when I didn't have fucking food to eat, and I think of Jack, right? I think of Aaron. I think of these people, and I'm like, I will fucking scrap. I will clean. I will do whatever I got to do in order to get those people out of the trenches. And that's also a problem, right? Because those people don't see the appreciation. Chris, I know, sees the appreciation 100 times over, which is why we're going to build big shit. You know what I mean? But I don't know how you think about that. Like, I don't know what you wake up and think, like.
Well,
I
first
really
off
don't.
is like, I mean, he talks about, you know, he's a train without the tracks, but in a way, like, he kind of in a way craves what I have, and I kind of in a way crave what he has.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like when he's talking about that conversation we had about the studio and what it would look like in the future, that was the first time I like pulled my head up from looking down and just running through it, of like, wow, I haven't dreamed in a long time. Like, how sad is that? You know, like I haven't just thought without placing all of these restrictions and constraints on myself of like, oh, I have enough money to do that, or like, does that make sense? Is that even like possible? You know, I've never just thought without those constraints. One, that's because of how my brain's wired, but two, it's just like, I just forgot to be a kid again at the end of the day. Anything's possible when you're a kid.
I was gonna say, it seems like you've been more of a kid lately.
Yeah,
And when
I've
I say
had
lately,
a little
for-
more
that's what I
fun
feel.
with it versus being serious. Like, I'm very serious a lot. I mean, you guys see it.
Yeah.
You know, like when I'm locked in, I'm locked in. But
No, I
it's
love it.
like, you know, I can laugh a little bit more. I can smile a little bit more. Like, things aren't as serious as they always seem to be.
100%.
At the end of the day, I got life. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. If some people are pissed off, that's fine. That's their worries. It's
Yesterday.
It's
Dude,
not mine.
I think a big factor of that, man, is like hope and belief, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that can take you so far, because it's like, hey, you might not know exactly what things will look like, but if you can just have hope and just believe in something, like, dude, for you believed in this for a long time. And it's almost like, how does this all start to happen? And dude, it takes me back to a study that was done in Harvard. And I think it's one of the coolest fucking things ever. But it was essentially a study on like hope, right? And what they did was a little gruesome, okay? But they threw in mice into like into water, right? Like a water jar. And they wanted to see how long they would last before they would drown. So they go through a study, and it was like 2-3 minutes or whatever. And then the guy's like, you know what? Right before they're drowned, let's just pick them up, give them some time to breathe, catch up, and let's throw them back, and let's see how long they last. How long do you guys think the second group lasted? Just take a guess.
They never
3
never
hours.
stopped.
They did stop. It was 60 hours.
60. That is 60.
Why?
Literally because they were saved
Hope.
one time, and they had the hope that once they get close to that point again, they're going to get saved. So they were able to push further than they could even imagine.
That's military.
I mean, that's a great example of that, right? But it's like, dude, imagine how you can harness that power in life and anything you want to do.
Like, I think of hope and I think of proud. If I wasn't proud of what I do by other people's validation, I don't think I would have thought of this, because I never was proud of myself. Everybody told me that I should do this and do that. And like, this was the first thing that I was obsessed with. Well, I've been obsessed with a lot of things, but this was the one thing that I was obsessed, where I actually got the validation in my brain that I was enough, I was proud of. And so like, when I come and I think of the vision and I think of the dream, and people come out and I'm sharing the whole vision and the story, at this point, I'm proud of it for the first time, right? Like, we've built something, right? Like, dude, I was telling Chris the other day, and Chris, I love this. Chris, did you see this? He's like, what are you talking about? How many times did I?
Context. I need context. Did you see that video? Where? Did you send it to me? Text? Instagram?
Hey, did you see that
WhatsApp?
person in the gym?
You
No.
do that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I was like, hey, did you see my dad the other day in the parking lot when we did our first challenge? And we had like 10, how many people we have out here? 10 or 12?
We had like 8 and then 10 with us.
Okay. We had 10 people, and dude, my dad's down there pouring concrete, And my dad thinks I'm a fucking idiot. And just my dad was watching, smoking a cigarette out the truck. Like, people were running with them. And I know for a fact at some point he was like, he barely took me serious for a second. He's like, fuck, these people are following what Weston and Chris are doing. Because my dad always makes fun of working out. He thinks this is the dumbest thing.
Yeah, he sees us run down the road like every day, and he'll stop and make a joke. Be like, I need to get out there and whoop your ass.
Dude, I'm running down the street and he's in a cigar shop like this. He's going, I'm jacking off and you're running. Like, that's just my dad, right? But he's just it. I think seeing other people follow us was something that my dad needed to see and understand. That, like, wait a minute, they're doing something.
You're crazy until you're a genius, and nothing changes in that time.
Yeah, I mean, I've dealt with that my whole life.
Mhm.
I fuck, Chris can tell you.
No one, I mean, everyone just kind of like, okay, Weston's got a new idea. He's got a new job role. He's got a new thing he's going after, and just didn't really take him seriously. And then, like, I forget the day, but I was like, dude, I think it's funny that everyone used to not really take you seriously, and now, like, their jaws drop, their eyes are wide, they're leaning in when you're throwing out your ideas, bro, because they believe in you now.
And that's a crazy feeling.
It's cool.
Well,
That's
and,
something
and
you always
that's
wanted
really
to.
that's really cool to me because this is the only Weston I've ever known. And so,
Yeah.
like, to think that, like, there's been people in your past that have thought that you're crazy. I mean, I can't even imagine that from you because you're you now. I don't know who you were. But
That's the other crazy thing. And I had to think of it this way. I'm like, fuck, man, I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be loved. I wanted all those things. But when you do a brain test and you really calculate your identity and you do these things, like, if Andy's 1 out of a million people, he has conversations with people, he should just stop asking questions because they don't have his answers. You're not going to align and you're not going to have conversations because your brain type is 1 out of a million, 1 out of 10,000. Where, like, you're in a specific location in a small town, like, nobody's going to fucking understand you or want to understand you. And then you go to another location and people are like, yeah, that's great. Go fucking do it, because their brain is like that.